Welcome to the Garden Angelus, where we talk about flowers, veggies, and all the best dirt. I'm Dee Nash from Guthrie, Oklahoma.
And I'm Carol Michael from Indianapolis, Indiana. We call ourselves Garden Angelus because we are evangelists for gardening. We love gardening and we want others to love it too.
We are also authors and invite you to check out our books, including my book, The 20-30-something Garden Guide and No Fuss Down and Dirty, Gardening 101 for anyone who wants to grow stuff.
And my books included Potted and Pruned, Homegrown and Handpicked, and Seeded and Sodded, my trilogy of gardening humor, and my new book, Creatures and Critters, Who's in My Garden. You can ask for any of our books at your favorite bookstore or find them online wherever books are sold.
Speaking of online, you can also find us as the Garden Angelus on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest, and we'd love for you to join our Facebook group, the Garden Angelus Garden Club.
And now on to this week's episode. Hello, Dee.
Hello, Carol. How is the world treating you?
The world is treating me well. The weather is not very nice, though.
It's not nice either here. I don't think it's anywhere. It's not nice from the middle of the United States all the way to the coast.
Right, but we're not supposed to talk about weather on podcasts.
Okay, so we'll just move on to our quote.
Okay, I'm ready.
Those who contemplate the beauties of the earth find reserves of strength that will endure as long as life lasts. There is something infinitely healing in the repeated refrains of nature, the assurance that dawn comes after night and spring after winter. And guess who said that?
Rachel Carson.
Who followed the changes of the earth very closely.
Yes. And that is a lovely quote. And it does remind us, as we're well into spring now, that we're going to have a growing season and everything's going to be okay.
It's going to be okay, even if your garden gets burned by, lows in the 30s. It'll be okay. Just don't plant those tomatoes yet in Oklahoma or Indiana.
Or pretty much anywhere as far as I can tell, unless you live way down in the south.
Florida, Georgia. You can plant them there, but a tornado might blow them away. Oh, wait, we're talking about weather again. Shall we talk about our flower?
Yes, but before that, I just want to say that my niece down in Louisiana has little cherry tomatoes on her cherry tomato plants.
Well, good for her. I wish I were down there right now. Kinda. Not really.
Let's talk about our flower.
Let's. Our flower today is one I don't think we've ever discussed before. It's Dianthus.
Right. And the common names for them are pinks, gillyflowers, sweet William, and there's one more.
What is it?
Well, I'll tell you here in a minute. I got to look it back up because I forgot.
Well, while Carol looks that up, everyone should know that Dianthus is in the family Caryophyllaceae. I think I did that right. Caryophyllaceae, something like that. Close? And there are over 300 species of Dianthus.
That is correct. Caryophyllaceae. Caryophyllaceae.
Yes, it's in that family.
Is that what
yes,
you
it's
said?
Close.
Sweet Johns is the other common
Well,
name.
that sounds naughty.
It does.
So I'm really glad you looked that up. Okay, moving on.
So there are tons of Dianthus.
Right.
And I like calling them gillyflowers.
I like calling them pinks. And they're called pinks not because they're pink, but because the edges of the flowers look like pinking shears, like a pinking shears has been taken to them. They're very pretty.
Right. They are pretty. And the only ones that I grow, Dee, are I'll call them mat-forming Dianthus that are almost a ground cover in a sunny location.
Mm-hmm. That's similar to what I grow too. And I have a couple of different varieties right now. The thing is that in my part of the world, they will grow and bloom for many, many seasons. And then one spring you'll look out there and they aren't there anymore. So that's when you replace them. And I've got a couple of different varieties, and I've grown one variety that you grow right now. I don't have any at the moment.
Bath's Pink.
Bath's Pink.
And it's the most common one, I think, as far as the creeping Dianthus.
I think so. It has blue-green leaves with pink blossoms, very pretty, grows a little taller than some of the other varieties. It's also known by the common name cheddar pink, if you aren't using the common name Bath's Pink. And it'll practically grow anywhere.
Right. And I had I had planted on the edge of the patio, and it grew like 18 inches onto the patio. I mean, it just kind of keeps extending its little stems and leaves. And I decided I didn't want it on the edge of the patio, taking over. So I
Right.
pulled it all up, and you literally can pull it up. And I took it over to the side of the house where there's a small retaining wall, and I planted it along that because I thought it would look great draped over that retaining wall. And it does.
I bet it does look great. And the reason it's easy to dig up is because it has very shallow roots. And
Right.
right now, I don't have Bath's Pink, although I've grown it many different times. And if people want something that spreads well, attracts pollinators, blooms early in spring, smells good. We haven't even discussed the fact that they smell
smells great.
so good. Pinks are for you, especially Bath's Pink. Bath's Pink has a lot of scent.
You don't have Bath's Pink right now?
I don't. I have a couple of, eventually it died out. I mean, a while back, and I didn't replant it. But I have two right now. I have Paint the Town Fuchsia, which is from Proven Winners, that was sent to me a couple of years ago. And it is just a tidy, sweet little plant that is just slowly spread in the last, well, it came out I want to say it came out in 2000. Let's see, what year are we in? 2020. I probably got it in 2018 or 2017. Anyway, it did really well. And I also grew another one from seed that I believe is an AAS winner. I know that I got seeds that year, and I think it is Dianthus Interspecific Super Pink. And that is a dumb name. I'm sorry. Oh, F1. Let's make sure we put that F1 in there. So it's not a catchy name, but it has overwintered several seasons. I started the seeds indoors, transplanted it outside, and it's stayed in this front bed. I will say that pinks like it kind of dry, the soil kind of dry.
They do not like wet soil at all. And I'm thinking I have actually a tiny, tiny little, like 6-inch patch of a dwarf Dianthus, which is tiny. And I kind of forget I have it. And then I'll look in this one little spot, and you kind of have to know it's there because otherwise you'd bury it in mulch or dig it out really quick. And it has a tiny, tiny little flower. I have to look up that variety.
So it has a tiny flower, or is it short?
Both.
Oh, both. Okay, so hence the reason it's dwarf.
I mean, it's almost a rock garden plant.
Yeah, and I would say that pinks make really good rock garden plants. They like shallow soil. They like it well drained. They'd prefer you not water them too much. I mean, in Oklahoma, you're going to have to get them established, but they're pretty easy care.
They are pretty easy care. And the Bath's Pink is really pretty. And my original plan around the edges of the patio was to plant Bath's Pink. And then I had gone to the garden center, and they had about 4 or 5 other varieties of Dianthus. And they were all various shades of pink.
Right.
And I thought it would be really pretty to have those various shades of pink, along the edge. And what happened was Bath's Pink completely took over, and all the other varieties disappeared.
Yeah, it's very, very strong until it's done. And then when it's done, it just disappears, and that's that.
Well, I haven't had it disappear. And I'll tell you, when I transplanted it over to the side of the garage, I did not need as much, and there was so much growth there. I'm going to tell you, this is going to be horrifying to you. I threw away 2 trash bags of Bath's Pink, and I still had plenty to plant over on that side.
Oh, okay. Well, it doesn't grow that well here. Not like that.
It's fabulous here.
Well, that's awesome. It's a great plant, and it will be really good when we talk about on our bookshelf, because on our bookshelf, she talks about Bath's Pink and all the other pinks. It has a whole section on them.
Let's not give that away. Let's go on to the
We're not giving it away. I didn't say who she was.
Let's go on to the vegetable section, and then we'll do the bookshelf. You ready?
Okay, I'll try to wait.
Okay, here's the quote. But it's gardening that's needed here, and that isn't learned in a day. Gardening, that's what this place needs. And that is a quote from Agatha Christie in one of her mysteries called A Murder is Announced. I read that quote years ago. I loved it. And I used to write it on the whiteboard in my office when I worked. Because I worked in a non-gardening place, I put on my whiteboard. But it's gardening that's needed here.
I love that. Yeah, you worked in tech, and so
Right.
you were a busy, busy girl. I would say, but it's gardening that's needed here fits in for almost anything in life, and other people are starting to see that because since the coronavirus hit and we've all been sheltering in place, what has gone crazy?
Oh my gosh, people are buying seeds like crazy. And I've gotten at least 5 different emails from seed companies that said, Uncle, no more orders until we filled these. We're not going to accept any orders until probably midweek. And then who knows how many sold out signs will be all over their websites. I mean, they have just been slammed.
They've been slammed, and I in fact got I can't remember where it was. I think it was on Instagram. One of my readers contacted me on, I think it was Instagram, and she said, "Hey, where can I find zinnia seeds?" And usually I could tell her 15 places, right? And
Right.
instead I just kind of sat there for a minute and thought, and I wrote her back and I said, go to your local, call your local first, call your local nursery and see if they have any botanical interest seeds, because I know BI sells to, various wholesale seeds to garden centers. And I said, they have several varieties of zinnias, and that's where I would look right now. And I explained to her that you can normally find zinnias many different places, but not this year. Not this year.
And I'm glad, I'm very super glad that I went through my old seed stash and used up a bunch of those seeds. I feel very, I don't know, heroic, or I don't know. Something.
Well, I went out and planted a bunch of seeds, so I feel like I'm contributing. And so what our veggie this time we're talking about is planting a Victory Garden 2.0. And the National Garden Bureau they're the ones who are promoting that. And you were going to say a little more about the National Garden Bureau.
Well, the National Garden Bureau was established, and we've talked about this, in 1920, and this is their 100th anniversary. And so they are reintroducing the concept of a victory garden, which actually their founder, who's a gentleman that was named James.
I can't remember.
James Burdett.
James Burdett. Oh, I had a Mrs. Burdett as my high school teacher. Anyway, James Burdett.
Well, he founded the National Garden Bureau, and then in 1943 he wrote a book called Victory Garden Methods that was published and very popular, and it told people how to grow vegetables, because during World War II they just had a supply problem. And so they asked everybody to plant vegetable gardens, and in droves people did, and they said they contributed about 40% of the vegetables to the food supply.
And that's amazing when you think about that. And so Victory Gardens 2.0, you can find the link in our show notes. And also, I know things are crazy because my book is selling really, really well again. And it's because it is a primer on vegetable gardening and then later flower gardening. But it starts out at the very beginning in containers and moves on. And so my only advice for people who are starting a vegetable garden now is, start small and don't have too high of expectations right at first. It's going to take a while for those vegetables to mature.
Right.
And if you have questions, join our Garden Angelist Garden Club, and we will help you as much as we can.
And we actually, last spring, we did a special podcast episode about growing a simple garden. And so we're going to put a link to that podcast episode and probably share that on social media, because that's a good primer for anybody, wherever you are.
It is. It's called a summer vegetable garden primer, I think, or something like that. And so we will link to that all over the place and try to help you guys, because it is hard to start gardening when you know nothing about it. But you guys have time right now to learn and get caught up and learn how fun it is and how good the food is.
Right. And so there has been a couple other things I've seen on social media that have people bothered. One is that there are some farmers, and I saw some stuff about some Georgia strawberry growers who have had to basically dump their crop, and people think,
Sad.
Oh no, why are they dumping their crop? And that's because the restaurants aren't buying like they used to. And so if their main customer were restaurants and wholesalers, they're just not buying the produce the way they used to. So it's ending up being wasted, so to speak.
And they also don't have anyone to pick it.
Right.
That's been another huge problem with all of the farms because everybody's trying not to get sick. I think one of the things we've seen throughout this whole coronavirus thing is all of the people who keep our country running.
Right. Strawberry pickers,
truck drivers, people who repair roads, people who work in grocery stores, people who supply all of that produce, restaurants.
Right. And so we do want to encourage people to support local businesses as much as possible. And of course, for us, our greenhouses, our nurseries, and our garden centers that are local, that's the first place we ought to be turning to for plants and seeds and anything else. And most of them have curbside pickup.
They either have curbside pickup or some of them are starting things where you can make an appointment and go in. Just be sure to wear gloves and a mask. And they have signs. I actually went to a nursery over the weekend and I was very careful. Everyone there had on masks. There weren't very many people in the store. And so everybody stayed at least 10 feet apart. And one of the things they had on their sign that I thought was very interesting was, do not touch a plant or a container unless you're going to buy that plant.
Good point.
Good, smart words, right? So we encourage you guys, shop your local bookstores. I mean, I know that the big guy is convenient, but shop local because your local businesses are the ones that are really hurting during this time.
Right. And I'm going to be my little greenhouse around the corner. I chatted with them on Facebook a little bit, and they actually are only doing like curbside pickup. They're having trouble keeping people in their cars.
Yeah.
But they serve a population that is English as a second language. So they're getting signage in the correct language. It's the Chin Burmese language. So that's really going to help. And then they're going to have time slots. Even in early May, they think here in Indiana, we'll have time slots for shopping. And I said, I'm going to need a big one.
And Bustani Plant Farm is doing that too. And I'm actually going out and picking up my plants tomorrow, even though it's still cold in Oklahoma the next few days. I'll just bring them indoors. I'm going to pick up my plants that I've already pre-ordered, and then they're allowing people to shop in 2-hour increments. So there's a few things that weren't on the online store. And just getting out and getting to drive to Stillwater is a thrill for me in this present time. When we were also talking about this whole Victory Garden 2.0, you saw that people were not very happy about that name.
Yeah, and I don't know. I don't know, because the conjuring up of war, and I think our food supply, like you said, there's problems with labor, but it's not in bad shape. It's not like we don't have enough. It's just we got to get it to the right places.
Right.
But I don't know what a better name would be. I came up with some lame ones like Wellness Gardens or the Since You Are Home Anyway Garden.
I like that one.
Or the About Time Garden. Get on the bandwagon of gardening, people. Hey, yeah, that's a good thing.
Hey, gardening is fun. People have no idea. And it also soothes your soul. And while you're planting those vegetables, I'm going to make a suggestion. Try to get some flower seeds too. And plant a few zinnias, plant a few cosmos. Do simple stuff that gives you great reward and also helps the planet.
Exactly. And so with that in mind, now we can go to the bookshelf.
Yay! I was so ready for the bookshelf.
All right.
Here's our quote.
Go for it.
Nowhere in the world is there anything quite like the English cottage garden. Marjorie Fish in Cottage Garden Flowers. Okay, that almost brought tears to my eyes. I didn't know that was our quote for this section. And as you know, I've been to England. How many times have I been there? 3 times. And there is nothing like the English cottage garden. I can attest to that.
And that is the opening line to her introduction to her book, Cottage Garden Flowers, which we briefly talked about. I think after we were done recording, we kept online, and you said I should really get it. And so I really bought it. Thank you very much. It was written in 1961.
I not only said you should get it, I also said that you should get this particular variety of it in her more famous book, We Made a Garden, because it's just aesthetically beautiful. And those of you guys listening to us can't see it, but I'm going to post a picture of both books today on our Instagram page.
Yeah,
so.
they're reprints from Batsford in the United Kingdom from 2016. And I got mine. I ordered it
I did
on
too.
Monday, and I got it on Friday.
And tell them where you ordered it from.
I ordered it from bookshop.org.
And explain why you ordered it from there.
Yes, ma'am. I ordered it from there. Bookshop.org was started, I think, in the fall with the idea that it would be an alternative to Amazon, and all the profits from bookshop.org would go to the independent bookstores.
Right, because when you buy stuff from Amazon, I'm not picking on Amazon, they're a behemoth, and I appreciate the fact that I can get books on my Kindle. I have a Kindle. But at the same time, I try really hard to shop my local bookstore, because when you buy from Amazon, they get everything from the wholesalers. And so your independent bookstore is shut out.
Right. But here's the nice thing. So bookshop.org, you have two ways to buy on there. You can go and you click on find a bookstore at the upper right. And when you find the bookstore, then every book you buy in that session will support that bookstore. So I do Wild Geese Bookshop in Franklin, Indiana. And then when I bought this book, Cottage Garden Flowers, she got the profits, and it tells me right on the website how much she got from me buying the book.
That's cool. And if you can't do that and you still want to buy from Amazon, you can go through their Smile program, and it donates money to your favorite charity. So if you want to buy from Amazon, go ahead and use the one that donates to charities.
Yeah, smile.amazon. The other way to buy from Bookshop is just to go onto the website, find the book, order it, and then the money goes to, I think it's sort of a general pool, and then they're going to figure out how to share those profits with all the independent bookstores that have signed up as affiliates with them.
I love this idea, and I'm going to try to buy more from them because I think it's a great idea. I live out in the country, and I actually can't use our library in the city. I can in Guthrie, but I can't use the Metropolitan Library System unless I pay a certain amount per year. And right now our library in Edmond is closed. They were in the middle of remodeling it, and the Guthrie Library is sad. So anyway.
Now, you will have to pay the shipping fee. So, a lot of us have Amazon Prime, and so we're not used to paying that shipping fee. So you'll pay a small fee for shipping, but it helps to support that bookstore. And is there anything better? Well, the best thing is to go to a garden center or greenhouse to browse, but the second best thing is to go to a bookstore to browse.
I would have to agree. Actually, right now, I would say getting to go anywhere and browse without fear would be awesome.
Yes.
But let's talk a little bit about the book, shall we?
Yes. The book is wonderful. And so I looked up Dianthus, our flower.
Yes.
She lists 45 varieties of Dianthus in the index and has a whole chapter called The Old Pinks.
I knew that only because I just read that chapter the other day. That's the only reason I knew. I mean, that's shocking. That's a lot of flowers. But let's just point out that during her time, this was written in 1961, there were a lot more flowers on the market, a lot more variety. But you can find a lot of these things. I read her daffodil section last night over again and thought of some ones that I want to naturalize in my lower lawn. But back to pinks. Sorry.
Well, any flower. I think, I love reading these old books, and here's the danger of it. Well, the danger is now, you want to have all those old varieties.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But they're not always available anymore.
Which is okay, and that's a good thing. Also, if you do buy this book or her other book, remember that botanical names have changed a lot in the last 10 years especially, but 61 is 59 years ago. So they have really changed. So I actually put my computer or my phone as I was reading, and a couple of times I looked up names because I was like, I don't know what plant she's talking about. And then it would come up and say, oh no, that's changed. That's not that botanical name anymore.
Right. And the other thing you have to be aware of, and I was looking to see if there's one particular flower. I don't really see it in here. But sometimes these old flowers turn out to be invasive, and so they shouldn't be planted. So before you go all wild about something and think, I really have to have that,
look it up.
You might go look and make sure it's not on your state's invasive plant list.
Especially if she says that, because she's writing these in England, and if she says that it's really aggressive in England, then you need to look it up here, because sometimes Sometimes things that are aggressive in England can be invasive in the United States.
Right. And so just kind of be careful, but they're charming because I think these books have more personality in them than some of the books written today. I mean, we have some really good books written today, but these are wonderful. Because here's what's interesting about these. So there are no photos in this book. She has to describe everything.
She does. And not only that, she writes a lot like Elizabeth Lawrence, don't you think?
Yeah, in some respects, yeah.
That very personable kind of way, very hands-on. I would suggest that if you guys have never read Marjorie Fish, read We Made a Garden first, and then read this book. She has like, I don't know, 8 or 9 books. She has a bunch. And are we going to give a shout out to our favorite bookstores? You gave a shout out to yours, didn't you?
I gave a shout out to Wild Geese Books in Franklin, Indiana. She has been delivering locally. She is shipping, and she has bookshop.org. So there's no reason to buy a book on Amazon when you got Wild Geese Bookshop down the road, 30 minutes down the road.
We have Best of Books in Edmond and Full Circle in North Oklahoma City. Those are 2 of our local bookstores that have survived. And there's also a bookstore in Midtown, and for the life of me, I just can't remember the name of it right there. I've only been there once.
All right. So that's on the bookshelf. Now the dirt.
So our dirt.
Dirt. I got to find the dirt.
I'll do the quote.
Yeah, you do the quote.
There is no gardening without humility. Nature is constantly sending even its oldest scholars to the bottom of the class for some egregious blunder. That's by Alfred Austin.
Yes. And we have openly shared our egregious blunders, I think. Don't you, Dee?
All the time. I share them on my videos that I do on Instagram too, on IGTV. Because you know what? Things happen. We make mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes. So we thought we would talk a little bit this time about climate, about how climate makes a big difference. And we kind of mentioned that in our On the Bookshelf about invasive plants. The climate in England is different than the climate in the United States. It's a maritime climate. Most of the United States is what's known as a continental climate. Very, very different.
And I think the climate that would come closest is if you lived over in Virginia, North Carolina, coastal areas. That might be similar.
It's much more humid down there. I would say the Pacific Northwest would be closer.
Oh, yeah.
Like Portland.
I hadn't thought of that.
I think Portland and Seattle would be closer, although they get a lot of rain in winter. Although the UK did too last winter, so you don't know. And even within the UK, they have distinctly different areas. Yorkshire was completely different than the drier East Anglia. So it just depends on where you are. So that's what we're talking about today is that things, as we discuss often on our show, things are different in Indiana than they are in Oklahoma.
Right. And we don't even talk about Florida because
we don't live there.
Sometimes we talk about Louisiana because my niece is down there.
Right. And we have a friend, Memes, who lives in Florida, but we'll leave Florida to Memes. She can try to help you figure it out. It's hard enough to figure out our climate. And I talked a lot this last week about how Oklahoma is a prairie climate. And prairie climates get storms and they come in fast. And I did a little video on my story on Instagram about how fast that storm came in. And you had it too, right? The cold front came barreling in.
We had a cold front came in, I think it was Wednesday, and we went from like 80 degrees to 50 degrees and a huge big storm. And there was some towns got quite a bit of damage.
Yeah.
But anyway, climate is important. Microclimates are also little pockets where you might have a little bit warmer area in your garden because maybe it's getting radiant heat off of a wall or something.
Mm-hmm. A brick wall or a cement wall or a fence, anything that blocks the wind helps. Also on the west side of your house, it might be a lot hotter, but my west side is complicated because it's shaded. So everything heats up faster and then sometimes it's a lot colder, and you can't just plant sun plants because you have shade as soon as the leaves come in. So those are microclimates. If you live in a valley, it's much cooler. They tell you never to plant fruit trees in a valley. Try to plant them on a hill.
Right.
There's a good reason for that.
The valley will be the first place to frost.
That's right. And you don't want your little blossoms freezing. Although ours may have last night, but that's the way it goes.
That is. So anyway, pay attention to your climate, but never let your climate keep you from reading a good gardening book by Marjorie Fish.
Exactly. Enjoy gardening books for what they are, and then try to figure out where they fit with your climate.
That's right. All right. Well, that's pretty much it for this week, Dee. I want to thank everyone for listening to The Garden Angelist. If you like our podcast, please tell your friends about us.
And if you listen on Apple Podcasts, we'd love a 5-star review. That helps us get noticed by others, and the algorithm pushes us up.
Yes. And be sure and check out our show notes for links to some more information about today's topics, plus links to our own websites.
It was lovely to chat with all of you over the Garden Gate today. Bye until next week.
Bye.